Hello everybody and welcome to the final episode of the Yakuza Retrospective. I know, how very sad. I will be making a video on Yakuza 6 at some point, but that won't be part of the Retrospective series because it's really not that old. As you know from the previous episode, I wasn't too hot on Yakuza 4, but I'm happy to report that Yakuza 5 is fantastic. It's probably my second favourite Yakuza game. With that in mind, join me as we explore the Yakuza Retrospective Yakuza 5. As with Yakuza 4, this game is split into 4 sections and then a finale. So we're going to go through them one by one. No spoilers until much later on, and I'll warn you before we get there. Yakuza 4 decided to hide Kiryu for most of its runtime. Yakuza 5 decides to open with him, and I do feel this was the best decision. We didn't see the best of Kiryu in Yakuza 4, but oh baby is he back in Yakuza 5. He's in a new area now, and I believe it's called Fukuoka. I really hope I'm not offending anybody by my mispronunciation, and I apologise if I am. Please, in fact, tell me how to pronounce all these places in the comments. I would really appreciate that. Anywho, he's laying low, off the grid, under a new name, with a new job, and a new life. If the previous few games have taught us anything, it's that this tranquility won't last very long, and that his past will eventually catch up with it. It's not a spoiler to tell you that this is the case. Much like Yakuza 4, the initial mystery is intriguing because something happens very early on that raises questions. In your mind, in the mind of the Tojo, and in the mind of the Omi. Unlike Yakuza 4, this one remains interesting, all the way through. But its initial development in Kiryu's section is fantastic. We're introduced to many characters who will play pivotal roles in the rest of the game. Kiryu's Konma is trademark Yakuza. You power your way through troves of enemies with flashy heat actions. My favourite one being the one where you ride a bike into the enemies. That's awesome. I spent far too much time in Kiryu's side story than I definitely should have. I never thought I'd be driving a car, never mind being a street racer. It's very simple, but it's still a load of fun. And you could also just do normal taxi missions where you drive people places that are oddly calming and introduce you to some very interesting characters in the classic Yakuza way. Fukuoka itself is wonderful. It's a nice little city with a beautiful river running around it. Kiryu's section was by far my favourite of the game. I spent the most time here and did every sub-story I could. Brilliant. Next up is Sajima, and he's back in prison, the Wally. This was a huge change of pace. Kiryu's section ended with a bang, but Sajima's section takes a long time to get going. It's not boring, it just moves at a slower pace. The prison drama was interesting on its own. You meet a lot of new characters, one of whom turns out to be very important in the wider narrative, but of course events happen and you're in the mountains. You fight a bear, which is weird, but we did fight 2 tigers in Yakuza 2, so I'll let you decide which is cooler. This was probably the only real boring part of the game for me. Sajima's side story revolved around hunting and eventually taking down this giant bear. It's a cool premise, but I just found it dull. The whole part in the mountains felt very out of place, but I do appreciate that they tried something different, and I imagine that it hit for a lot of people, but for me, it was just a miss, and it wasn't too appealing. But eventually, you're back in civilization, and your new city is Tsukimino again. I'm sorry. Exploring Kamurocho as Sajima in Yakuza 4 was a chore, but exploring Tsukimino as Sajima is much easier. It's my least favourite area of the game, probably due to how little time you actually spend there compared to the others. Sajima is an amazing character, one of the best in the series, but so far I just haven't fallen in love with any of his sections, whether it's this game or Yakuza 4. His combat is brilliant, it's just the standard, power and holding down the triangle button to do power attacks, of picking people up and throwing them at other people. It's pure strength. I enjoyed this part of the game, but it was my least favourite part. Oh, I forgot to say, he also has some very funny side stories. Sajima's side stories are brilliant. I love them. Make sure you do them. Now, if you've watched my other Yakuza videos, then you'll know that I love Sotenbori. Just look at it. My gosh, I love it here. Also, in my Yakuza 3 retrospective, I said this. Haruka has slowly developed into a slightly more important role as she gets older, and I envision that she will become even more important in the games to come. Then, when I was completely wrong about this, in my Yakuza 4 retrospective, I said this. Well, I couldn't have been more wrong. She barely appears in the game at all. I assume she gets a bigger role in 5, but I said that about 4 as well, so who knows. Finally! I was right! Haruka is a playable character, and whilst it would have been hilarious to see her beating dudes up on the street, the gameplay obviously has to change. I've never really played rhythm games all that much, but now I'm thinking maybe I should, because this was fun as hell. Aside from the fact I've got this goddamn song permanently stuck in my head forever, this section was brilliant. It took a long, and I mean a long, time before it became clear as to how it was relevant to the rest of the game, but eventually it does show you how it connects. It becomes a drama based around showbiz, as Haruka is now an idol, trying to achieve her dream and become a famous star. It's weirdly intriguing. Random encounters are replaced by dance battles, and sub-stories become little minigames such as handshake events or appearing on talk shows. It was a refreshing change of pace that I welcomed. Eventually, shit goes down, and my guy Akiyama shows up. I love this man so much. He might just be my favourite character in the series. He's definitely top 3 anyway. He's charismatic, he's witty, and he cares about Haruka. His part of the section is more focused around the Yakuza side of things in the showbiz industry, understandably, but he and Haruka make a great team and link up brilliantly. Thoroughly enjoyed this section. Finally, there's Shinada, a brand new character. I would firstly like to say that yet again they've introduced the character for a single game and then just made them disappear without a trace. They did it with Sajima in Yakuza 2, and now they've done it with Tanimura in Yakuza 5. If there are issues with the voice actors, or if you want to go in a different narratorial direction, then fine, but you have to write it into the game. This is poor. I didn't care all that much about Tanimura anyway, but she's just randomly gone. Anywho, Shinada himself is awesome. He's got a personality that just makes you want to root for him. He's faced his fair share of bullshit, but he just deals with it and remains light-hearted on the face of adversity, and that's admirable. He's goofy as hell and he's a stupid little mug, but that's why we love him. His relationship with Takasugi was the highlight, but the whole Nagoya family mystery itself was fantastic, even if it was over a little bit too soon. The main issue with Shinada's section is that most of it isn't relevant to the rest of the story in any way, and that kind of hurts him, especially considering you play as him last. Because whilst Haruka's section took a long time before it became relevant, Shinada's section doesn't become relevant until like the last 25 minutes or something, when a certain character shows up. That's when you see the connection. It's a brilliant little story on its own, a nice little side detour, but considering that at this point you're over 30 hours deep into the game, you're probably wanting things to wrap up a little bit and you don't want to go on this little detour. It's a great detour, but most people just probably won't want to deal with it. Nagoya itself was a fantastic place to explore, and I'd love to return to it again someday. His combat revolves around using weapons, which I don't personally dig at all, but I like it that they tried something different, a new fighting style. Tanimura's was cool in Yakuza 4. It didn't quite land for me. I still enjoyed it, but yeah, I prefer the normal Kiryu, Sajima, Akiyama, if you know what I mean. But yeah, Shinada's section, pretty cool, I liked it. He also gets a fantastic role in the ending of the game, which obviously I'm not going to tell you now. All I'm saying is he's involved, okay? That's no spoiler. It's not a spoiler to tell you that a playable character is involved in the ending. Right, so they're the 4 main sections dealt with. So how about some general thoughts about the game? It's long. Yakuza 3 and 4 tend to fall between the 15 to 20 hour mark if you do minimal side content, but this one is easily double that. Yet for me, it didn't feel artificially stretched out like a game such as Assassin's Creed Valhalla would. Sure, there are moments where it could have been shortened, but why would you want to shorten it? The more Yakuza, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Although, there is a very small chance this might be because I played this game in short bursts. I beat it over the space of 2 or 3 weeks, playing 3 or 4 hours per day, so yeah, that could have something to do with it. The sub-stories are characteristically brilliant. They're weird, they somehow still find ways to surprise you 5 games in, and they're just wonderful for the pacing of the game. The increased size of the game means we've got many more areas to explore, where in the past we've mainly been limited to just Kamurocho, or Okinawa, or Sotenburi. Well, here each character has their own section, as well as being able to explore Kamurocho. The story isn't as ridiculous as 4, it felt a lot more grounded, well, as grounded as Yakuza can be anyway, and it's a huge step forward. Now, it's time for a small spoiler section. I'm aware of how long this video has gotten, so this section won't be too long. If you want to avoid spoilers, then skip to the time appearing on screen now. Warned, you have been. In Yakuza 3, Daigo gets shot at the start and then is unconscious all game until the end. In Yakuza 4, Daigo runs off at the start and disappears until the end. The questions surrounding his disappearance in Kiryu's section were great, and they were the backbone of the whole mystery. And his reappearance in Shinada's section was wonderful. I love how they did that. Kurosawa was a great villain. You don't know he's the villain until the end of the game, but you never really take a shine to him regardless. And trying to work out who the mastermind working behind the shadows is was great fun. I never believed for a second that Majima was really dead, but when he appears in the finale, it's a fantastic moment that will make any Yakuza fan jump for joy. I really sympathised with Baba. It was clear that he'd simply fallen in with the wrong crowd, and at heart wasn't a bad guy. Sajima clearly saw that in him, and I'm not going to disagree with Sajima. You feel free to disagree with Sajima all you want. They utilised Kiryu much better in this game than in 4. He had no personal stake in 4 whatsoever and just appeared because it's Yakuza. But you can tell he's emotionally invested in this one, and there's that one scene on the helicopter roof, I think, when he's with Sajima, Watase, and the other dude, where he's like, when Daigo gets shot and he has a little scream. Oh man, that moment is just, god damn it, that part was just, we love to see emotion like that. Fantastic acting, fantastic writing. The first half of the game has the core theme of aging and dealing with the demons of your past. Kiryu and Sajima are victims of the lives they've lived in the past, and the questions of how their legacy makes them man is asked numerous times. When speaking to Watase, Kiryu remarks, "We walk the same path, except you are barreling towards death whilst I fight for life," or something along those lines, and it really encapsulates where Kiryu is at this point in his life. The second half deals more with the purpose of dreams. Shinada and Park were unable to reach their dreams, and Akiyama and eventually the rest of the guys sacrificed so much so that Haruka can achieve hers. I think it's Shinada who says at one point, people need to see others chasing their dreams. It makes it a lot less scary to start chasing their own. All in all, it's a deeper story on a conceptual level than what we've seen before from the series, and as someone cursed with a literature degree, I appreciate it. Yakuza 5 is one of the better games in the series. If we're going by release order, it's the best Yakuza to this point, though the following game Yakuza 0 edges it for me, and I personally prefer Judgment as well. But 5 is without a doubt the highlight of the remastered collection. It's leagues ahead of 3 and mountains better than 4. 0 is the best, but 5 is the ultimate Yakuza experience. Thank you for making it to the end of the video, and the end of the Yakuza Retrospective. I've had a blast making these videos and I hope you've enjoyed watching them, but for now, that's all from me. If you enjoyed it, then please consider leaving a like, as it would be greatly appreciated, and if you want to see more content from me, then make sure to subscribe to other videos just like this one every single Friday. Have a nice day and goodbye.